Begins with the smell of fried bananas and exhaust fumes rising through the crowded Manila streets where Marco lived his entire life. At just 15 years old, he had already learned what survival meant. His mornings started before sunrise, helping his mother set up their tiny snack stall near the bus terminal. The wooden cart wobbled every time a bus passed, but it was all they had. As he handed out snacks to passengers rushing to work, he hummed melodies he learned from old radio songs. Singing was the only thing that made him feel free, even if nobody paid attention. By evening, when the sun dipped low and the air cooled, Marco grabbed his broken speaker and taped microphone and stood on the same corner where jeepneys lined up. That corner became his stage, and the streetlights became his spotlight. People sometimes stopped and listened, sometimes dropped coins, sometimes ignored him completely. He didn't expect much, he sang because it felt like breathing. One afternoon, while singing an emotional cover of a Bruno Mars song, a tourist paused and lifted his phone. Marco barely noticed, people recorded him sometimes, but nothing ever happened afterward. What he didn't know was that this particular video captured something different. It wasn't just his voice, it was the sincerity in his eyes, the cracks of emotion in his tone, the way he hit every note like he was fighting for his life. Hours later, that video made its way to social media, and by midnight, the internet exploded with shares, comments, and messages. People from the USA, Europe, and Asia were calling him a hidden treasure. Marco woke up confused, staring at his mother's old phone buzzing nonstop. When he finally opened the video, he saw his own face on the screen with millions of views and worldwide praise. His heart raced. For the first time, he wondered if his dream could actually take him somewhere. Continues right where the shock settled in. Reporters swarmed the terminal the next day, asking Marco to sing live while cameras rolled. His mother stood behind him, wiping tears as she watched her son suddenly become someone the world wanted to know. Then came a message that changed everything. A well-known music producer from Los Angeles reached out, saying he wanted to bring Marco to the USA for an official audition. Marco didn't know what to think. He had never been on a plane, didn't own proper clothes, and barely spoke English confidently. The idea felt impossible, yet magical. His mother encouraged him, reminding him that blessings don't come to everyone, and when they do, you grab them with both hands. The entire neighborhood came together like a family. A local tailor gave Marco a new outfit, someone donated a pair of shoes, and a barber offered a free haircut. Even the mayor stepped in, promising to handle his passport and travel documents. Every day, people visited Marco's house to wish him luck. For the first time, he felt seen, valued, and supported by more than just his family. The morning of his flight, Marco held his mother tightly at the airport. She whispered prayers into his ear, telling him to stay humble no matter how big the world became for him. As he walked toward the plane, his heart pounded, his palms sweated, and his mind swirled with fear and excitement. When he looked out the window and saw the clouds below him, he realized he was leaving everything he knew behind. But he also realized he was stepping into the life he once thought was impossible. Marco promised himself quietly, almost like a prayer, that he would make his country proud. Begins the moment Marco stepped off the plane and felt the cool Los Angeles breeze hit his face. Everything around him looked unreal. The wide roads, the huge airport screens, the people rushing with suitcases, the voices speaking English so fast he barely understood a word. A representative from the producer's team held a sign with his name and guided him to a van waiting outside. Marco sat quietly, staring out the window as the city lights moved past him. He had only seen America in movies, and now he was inside it, feeling both terrified and amazed. When he arrived at the studio apartment they arranged for him, he spent an hour just exploring the room. It was small, but to Marco, it felt like a luxury hotel. There was a TV bigger than the one in his entire neighborhood, a soft bed that didn't squeak, and a clean bathroom with hot water, something he rarely had at home. The next morning, he met the producer in person. The man shook his hand and told him straight, "You have something special, kid. We just need to polish it." The next week became a blur of vocal lessons, breathing exercises, pronunciation training, and hours of practice. Marco's English improved slowly, and every time he mispronounced a word, the coach laughed gently and corrected him. At night, he called his mother, telling her how hard he was working. She always ended the call with, Anik, just sing with your heart." Finally, the day of the big audition arrived. Marco wore the outfit his neighborhood had gifted him and walked into a huge building full of lights, cameras, and people with clipboards. His hands shook as he waited for his turn. The walls felt colder, the room felt bigger, and every sound seemed sharper. When they finally called his name, he stepped into a room with 3 executives sitting behind a long table. Marco took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and let the music begin. As he sang, he imagined the street corner where he once performed, the sound of jeepneys passing behind him, his mother watching from the stall. He poured all the struggle, all the hope, all the pain into every note. When he finished, there was silence, then the judges stood up and clapped. One of them said he hadn't heard a voice that pure in years. Marco walked out stunned, and by the time he reached the hallway, someone tapped his shoulder and handed him a paper. It was an offer. He had just earned a contract. Continues with Marco entering the professional world of music. His days became filled with studio sessions, interviews, and endless rehearsals. The team decided his first single would be an emotional pop ballad that reflected his life. The lyrics talked about rising from nothing, about holding onto dreams even when life felt impossible. Recording wasn't easy. Every time familiar emotions surfaced, his voice cracked, and he had to restart. But the producer encouraged him, saying that real emotion was what people connected to. When the song was released online, the reaction was immediate. Fans from the Philippines flooded the comments, proud to see one of their own breaking into the international scene. American listeners shared the song in emotional videos, drawing millions of views. Suddenly, Marco became a trending topic again, but this time on a global level. Soon after, he was invited to perform on a major American TV show. The stage was enormous, the lights blinding, and the crowd louder than anything he had ever heard. Marco felt his knees shake as he stepped out, but once the music started, everything fell into place. His voice echoed across the studio, strong and full of heart. People rose from their seats, cheering for the boy who once sang for coins on a street corner. When Marco walked off the stage, he knew one thing for sure: his life had changed forever, and his journey was only beginning. Begins at the moment the spotlight became brighter than Marco ever imagined. With fame came expectations, interviews, rehearsals, and the constant need to be perfect. At first, Marco thought he could handle everything. He was grateful, excited, and full of energy. But slowly the pressure began to creep in. Every day, his schedule was packed from morning until late at night. He was learning choreography, practicing new songs, recording tracks, attending meetings, and trying to keep up with social media posts his team said were necessary. The sudden noise of the industry felt overwhelming. Even though thousands praised him, Marco discovered the internet could also be cruel. As his fame grew, so did the negative comments. Some people claimed he was overrated. Others made fun of his English or said he didn't deserve to be in the USA. One night, after hours of practice and feeling physically drained, Marco scrolled through the comments on one of his performances. Most were positive, but the handful of hateful ones stuck like daggers. He shut off his phone and sat alone in the dark room, feeling the weight of expectations crush him. The homesickness hit him the hardest. He missed his mother's cooking, the neighbors yelling from house to house, kids running barefoot in the street, and the simple nights where he practiced under the Manila sky. In Los Angeles, even with all the lights and luxury, he often felt lonely. He called his mother late one night, his voice shaking as he tried to hide his tears. She immediately sensed his pain. "Anik, remember where you started," she told him gently. "Your voice is your gift, not your burden. Don't let anyone take away your strength." Those words brought him comfort. The next morning, instead of avoiding his emotions, he faced them. He returned to the studio with a renewed mindset. The producer introduced him to a famous American rapper who wanted to collaborate on a fusion track, half pop, half hip-hop. At first, Marco felt intimidated, but the rapper told him, "Kid, your voice hits harder than any beat. Let's make something unforgettable." They recorded a song that blended Marco's heartfelt vocals with the rapper's powerful verses. The contrast worked perfectly. When the track dropped, it shocked everyone. It climbed the international charts, hitting playlists around the world. Fans from both cultures embraced the collaboration, calling it unexpected magic. Overnight, Marco evolved from a viral singer to a global artist, proving he wasn't a one-hit wonder, he was here to stay. Continues with the biggest moment of Marco's life, his homecoming concert in Manila. After months of living abroad and achieving worldwide recognition, he returned to the Philippines as a national hero. As soon as he stepped out of the airport, a crowd of fans screamed his name, waving signs and flags. Marco felt tears build in his eyes. He wasn't just a boy who went viral anymore, he was someone who inspired dreams. The concert took place in a massive arena packed with thousands of people. Families came from distant provinces just to see him. Kids held posters saying they wanted to be like him. When the lights dimmed and Marco walked onto the stage, the audience erupted with a roar so loud it shook the building. He stood there for a moment, letting the love soak in. He began his performance with the song that first made him viral. As he sang, memories of his old street corner flooded back, his mother watching from the stall, the coins dropping into his box, the feeling of singing for survival. As the night continued, he performed his international hits, surprising fans with guest appearances and emotional speeches. Toward the end, he paused and looked at the crowd that had supported him from the beginning. He thanked his mother, his neighborhood, and every Filipino who shared his video and believed in him. He promised to use his success to help young talents who came from backgrounds like his, kids who thought dreams were too far away. When the final note rang through the arena and the lights faded, Marco felt something deeper than fame, he felt purpose. His journey from poverty to stardom wasn't just his story anymore. It belonged to everyone who ever dreamed, suffered, hoped, and kept going. And as he walked off stage, hearing the echo of thousands cheering his name, he knew this was only the beginning of a much bigger legacy.